founder and editor of PrimetimeParenting.com, where I talk about parenting, food, travel, and all things fun. And today we have Barbara Bensoussan with us today. And it's such a pleasure. I've been reading, and I'm sure you have heard of Mishpacha magazine, where Barbara is a featured columnist. And she has many other things under her hat as well, or her tichel, that she's going to share with us today. In addition to some of these other magazines that she has had stories on the front page, Mishpacha, Family First, Jewish Action, and her newest endeavor, which we'll find very exciting. So Barbara, please share with us, how many years have you been in the writing business?
You know, I didn't set out to become a writer. I kind of fell into it, and I think the same things that produced this book are what made me a writer.
Tell us. Tell us about
because I came from, you know, a very middle-class, suburban, Jewishly identified, but not particularly religious family. And then somewhere into graduate school, I started learning more about Torah living, and I was very attracted to it. I'd always been kind of spiritually inclined, but not New Agey. And so this really appealed to me. I ended up going to Neve Yerushalayim for a summer, and I came back saying, okay, that's it. I have to start keeping Shabbat. I have to start keeping kosher. I don't know how far I'm going to go with this. You know, I don't know if I'm going to wear a shmata on my head, but I'm going to see. And that summer, I also happened to meet my husband, who was from Morocco. He was living in France at the time. He was in graduate school finishing
how romantic,
a master's in computer science.
That is in the book.
That is in the book.
I did like that part.
And we ended up getting married. Plan A was to live in France because he spoke French and I spoke French and he didn't speak English at the beginning. And then with the papers and the visas, and it was just so complicated, we ended up in Brooklyn, basically. And I feel like I was plunged into all these different cultures, you know, Moroccan, French, Israeli, American non-religious, American religious. New York by itself is like a whole culture unto itself. It's different than the rest of the United States. So I had all this stuff like washing around in my mind. And in the meantime, I also got married and had a lot of kids very fast. And that was also washing around in my mind. And I just had all this stuff that was percolating that needed expression. So I did a few different jobs when my kids were little. Never full-time, but I worked as a social worker for OHEL for a few years, and then I worked teaching ESL to Russians for a few years. And then there was a point where my husband he was doing a consulting business on the side, and he needed my help in the house. And my youngest just got into school, and so I was working for him very part-time, but I finally got a few extra hours where I could put those thoughts onto paper. And I sent out a couple of articles, and they got accepted, and I sent out some more, and I started getting more, you know, I guess, ambitious about where I would send. And then editors started noticing them, and I started getting calls from people saying, could you please, you know, do some pieces for us.
That's a big accomplishment. Oh, so you've always had a natural affinity to writing. Like obviously your grammar's very good, your vocabulary, because it's not for everybody actually.
You know, you'd be surprised. My grammar is good. I used to teach English at the University of Michigan.
That's good.
And I come from a family where I have a lot of writers in my family, so we always have to give credit. Like, you know, people don't just, you know, spring fully formed. You know, you come from a background. But I was surprised when I started working in magazines how many pieces come in that are not print ready, and that a good editor has saved many a writer from embarrassment. So, you know, yeah.
That's a great story. Now, you grew up in a suburban setting. I'm
Very
assuming,
much.
you know, I have 2 children.
Right.
You know,
a lawn, a dog, yeah.
And you know, I just want to know what prepared you for all these adventures. I mean, in 1 year, you meet the man of your dreams. You know, you're in Paris, you're in France, your languages. What is it that you had growing up that lent itself to being able to do that? Is there something you were...
I was a good student in French. That was very helpful. So when I met my husband, I was able to speak to him.
Very nice.
I was always very open-minded. My parents always encouraged us to be open to other worlds. I don't know if they were so thrilled when I first decided that I was going to join this, you know, more extreme Orthodox world, but today they have a lot of nachas, Baruch Hashem.
So it's definitely pay attention when you're in your language classes.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
I like that idea. So again, were you a cook growing up, or is this something you learned on the job?
I enjoyed cooking. In fact, when I was in graduate school, my mother was always cooking. She likes to try new things. She's adventurous. I like to putter in the kitchen. When I was in graduate school, like sometimes my women friends and I we'd had it with being under pressure to be like these professionals, and we would take a Sunday, we would just cook. Just like, that was our rebellion, to just cook. But I knew American cooking. I didn't know Moroccan cooking. That was a whole new world for me.
Can you just tell us about that piece a little bit, about the first time you had to cook for your mother-in-law? Or
When I first got married, my mother-in-law more cooked for me,
Okay.
and my sister-in-law cooked for me. I helped them.
okay.
But I didn't know how to cook in the style that they liked. So I really just played sous chef
Okay.
for a while.
And so by
Yeah.
being the sous chef, you got your hands into what was going
Yeah.
on and got
I
familiar.
watched, I
Sure.
noticed, I also read some books. People would buy me Moroccan cookbooks, so I would go through those.
That's lovely. And the first time your parents, who grew up very, probably meat and potatoes, the first time they had a dish, name it the most exotic dish, and how they
Huh.
felt about that. You had prepared that. Their daughter of,
I think when I got married in Brooklyn, and my in-laws came in from Israel, and my sister-in-law came in from Morocco, and they wanted to make us a henna, which is this party right before the wedding. Everybody dresses in Moroccan, caftans, and they put on Moroccan music, and they eat Moroccan food. And these can be very lavish. In Morocco, some people they rent tents and they hire orchestras. Sometimes they're just as lavish as the wedding. But my family coming in from abroad, there wasn't a whole Moroccan community that they were coming into to do this for. So they said, let's make a small one in the home. So in my apartment, they brought in Moroccan cigars, Moroccan pastels, are like little triangles, almost like a bareka. They cooked food, they made couscous, and so my parents came and they, found us all in our Moroccan clothing, and they were all singing Moroccan songs, and everyone loves the food. I don't know anybody who doesn't like Moroccan food. It's delicious.
So Barbara, how did this book come about?
This book came about because as a writer, I started writing about food. It's not my main focus as a writer, but I enjoy writing about food. Now, food is fun. Food is not high pressure. It's not politics. It's
Yes.
not heavy research usually. A little bit of research. So for a while, I was doing a column for the Hamoudiyah about Sephardic food once a month, and that kind of formed the core of a lot of this book. I revamped them. I added things. I do some new writing, and put it into this form. It's the beginning of the book is about my own journey from clueless American kid to Moroccan Balabusta. And then I try to include also not just Moroccan, but other Sephardic communities, because as I was living in Brooklyn, you have Persian, you have Syrian, you have a lot, and they're all very different in the same way that Hungarians and Polish and German, they don't want to be confused with each other. They're all very different. And in that same way, Moroccans and Iranians and Syrians, and they all have their own distinct cultures.
So this is a fabulous. So please tell us where we can find the book and where we can read you.
So the book is available in Jewish bookstores. It's put out by Israel Bookshop Publishing, and it's available on their site. I believe it's israelbookshoppublishing.com, and on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
Good. And if you do happen to read the book, please share your reviews up on Amazon. Let's spread the word. I've read it cover to cover. I love it. It's a story. It's recipes. It even has medicinal value. What spices are great for different things, which is very timely with me being a primetime parent. And we thank you so much. We look forward to seeing your demo.
Thank you.